Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Terry James Gingras, and this is Dr. G's ADHD room. Somehow I keep getting that last word wrong. I've called it a chat for years and then something else, and now I'm told it's actually room. So here we go. Hope we've got it right this time. Okay, this is a show trying to make the world safe for ADHDers. I am a clinical psychologist and neuropsychologist, as well as the parent of an ADHD child, and maybe more than one. We're not sure yet, although it's been a long time. Uh, but uh, when I first became a parent, we didn't have ADHD. We didn't have ADD. We had a thing called hyperkinetic reaction of childhood. Now, if you don't know what that means, you're not alone. We didn't either. And as a matter of fact, we spent absolutely no time in graduate school talking about this. It was both seen as being primarily hyperactivity, and it was also primarily seen as something that you would grow out of as you matured. We now know, well, first of all, there are a lot more types than just hyperactive type, and we also know that you don't grow out of it. Okay, you've got this gift for life, so you best learn to make the best of it. And the other thing that frequently happens with this is that ADHD is a neurologic condition. There are actual differences in the way the brain works. Doesn't mean that the brain is defective. It just means it doesn't work the same way as a neurotypical brain, which is what all of society is designed for, unfortunately. So if your child has ADHD, he can be near genius level. I mean, mine was, um, and I know because I measured it myself. Uh, but your children will be real bright, but it's just their brain doesn't work kind of the way most of society, particularly schools, are designed. So they have extra difficulties. And one of the things that I'm kind of interested in is, well, obviously, I'm kind of interested in the neurologic components of all this stuff because I, spent 40 years as a neuropsychologist. Uh, and neuropsychologists, if you're not familiar, are the guys who say, "Yeah, grandpa's got dementia," or "Yeah, boy, you really have a traumatic brain injury," and that sort of thing. A lot of testing and a lot of science, basically. But I want to talk first a little bit about working memory. Okay, if you're not familiar with that, that's all right. Okay, memory has, and there are a lot of different models of the way the brain works. So some of them will be different from what I'm telling you, but the idea is that we're trying to understand, and one of the ways you try to understand things is you make models, knowing that models are simplifications and sometimes not 100% accurate, but they're a close representation. Okay, when we're talking about memory, we're usually talking about at least four different types. There's what's called episodic memory, which is memory for the good old days. That's, where'd you grow up? Who was your best friend when you were in eighth grade? That sort of thing. And that's robust. That lasts, oh, I've seen people who can't recognize their children, but they can still remember what they did in September 2nd, 1940, or that sort of thing. The next one is what's called procedural memory. And procedural memory is basically habits, things you've been doing so long you don't even think about it. And that saves a lot of people with significant brain damage. They can still do stuff they were used to doing, as long as they don't think about it. If they think about it, they'll probably screw it up. Okay, and then the next one is what's called short-term memory, which is the ability to form new memories. What'd you have for breakfast this morning? That kind of thing. And then the last one is called working memory. Okay, and that's the one where you don't exactly plan on retaining the information for the rest of your life. You just want to keep it in awareness. Okay. Like, well, for those of us of a certain age, when you get up from the family room and you go into the bedroom and you can't remember what you were going after. Okay. For younger folks, it's like when the boss tells you he wants three things, and you get one of them done and you can't remember what the other two were. That's your working memory having a blip. Okay. So working memory is universally known to be relatively weak in ADHDers. Okay, their brain just doesn't hold that information the way a neurotypical brain does. So if you want your child to do three things up in his or her room, make sure you've got it written on the wall or someplace, because they're not going to remember all three things. I know a lot of parents get really frustrated because they tell, I want you to pick up your room, I want you to hang up your clothes, clean up the dirty clothes and put them in the laundry, and make your bed. And they'll go up there and find that maybe the bed has been made, but the other two things, and he's playing video games or she's playing video games. And of course, you thinking you have been treated with less than total respect are going to get angry. It's not about angry. Working memory, that's as good as it gets. Okay, now the thing about that is that learning requires working memory to work normally, which means it's got to hold it, okay? And basically, you're told something, you're lectured about something, or see a video about some academic kind of topic. Okay, well, what your brain is supposed to do is hold it in working memory and then go flipping through past memories in a different part of the brain till it finds similar information. Sort of like if you're looking for the right folder in a file drawer to put this stuff in. Well, unfortunately, a lot of times before they find the folder in their long-term memory, they have forgotten what they're looking at. So then they have to find the information they were trying to share, if they even remember that there was some information they were trying to put into long-term memory. Then they have to either reread the paragraph or look at their notes, and hopefully they got the information they need in the notes. Anyway, so that's why they have troubles. Okay, their working memory is weak. It doesn't hold as much for as long as a neurotypical brain. And that means that a lot of times they have to have multiple repetitions of the same information before they actually learn it. And it's not the same thing as a learning disability, okay? It is not. It can sometimes seem like a learning disability, depending on how it's presented, but it is not a learning disability. It is just the result of a weakness in working memory. And to make this even more complicated, we know that ADHDers tend to respond better to stuff they're interested in and pay attention better and hold it in working memory longer if they're interested in it. So if they're really interested in history and you're showing them a video about the Trojan horse or something, and they really like history a lot, and then they're probably going to do okay with that. But if it's, I don't know, chemistry, say, no reason to pick chemistry out particularly, but that they're not interested in, they'll have a deuce of the time getting it on board. They just won't be able to retain it. They get upset. They can't remember what they were trying to locate, and they a lot of times you'll have an explosion, some kind of frustration kind of thing because, oh, why do I have to study this anyway? And that sort of thing. Again, that's not a learning disability. It's the weakness in working memory that we know ADHDers have, and that therefore they don't retain it in the working memory part of the brain. They are therefore not able to match it with the long-term memory. Well, it's probably in the hippocampus area of the brain, and it can look like a learning problem. In some cases, it's not, but it is the natural result of relatively weak working memory. And weak working memory in the brain kind of tends to sort of be in a more of a frontal lobe thing than than back in the posterior part of the brain. Posterior parts tend to have more to do with memory generally, but working memory, matter of fact, some theoreticians, if you will, some theoreticians and people who make up theories or plan and research theories about how the brain works and that sort of stuff, have put working memory in with the executive functions, which tend to be in the frontal lobes of the brain, the front part, the big one up, lobes up in the front of the brain. So that is why ADHDers will sometimes have more trouble learning than kids who are neurotypical, because of the weak working memory. So your brain can't get to the long-term memory fast enough before you've forgotten the material that's supposed to be in working memory. Okay. I hope that's helpful in understanding some things about how your child's brain works. It's not brain damage. It's not a learning disability. It's just that their frontal lobes require more stimulation, more effort than a neurotypical brain. Okay, and just let you know that I am, if you're on my list, I'm starting to give some additional information that'll be in a direct email to those of you who are on my list. And if you want to be on my list, you can go to my website, terrygingrassphd.com, and sign up there, and you get a little a PDF about ADHD that I wrote it myself, and and then you'll have access to the additional information that I'm going to be doing. All right. Well, thank you for being here, and we will catch you next week. In the meantime, remember, this is the show trying to make the world safe for ADHDers, because we need ADHDers. Okay, we need people who are not neurotypical, who can think outside the box. And so it's your job to bring these thinkers that don't think inside the box, to raise them properly so they'll actually get to it and start solving some of these problems that a neurotypical brain just doesn't even consider. Remember, neurotypical brains are real good at maintaining the system. ADHD brains are really good at seeing what needs to be changed. And so that needs to be encouraged. Alrighty. With that, I will see you next week. And thanks for watching.